What is the scariest experience you've had in your life that you believe can only be attributed to the paranormal? For several years I experienced what is commonly called sleep paralysis. The first experience was one of the most terrifying. I was taking a nap on Christmas Day. I had the common experience of a visceral buzzing in my head, and a feeling of terrible evil coming upon me. I woke up but couldn't open my eyes or move a muscle. I then felt someone grab onto my feet and start crawling up my body. I felt completely overcome with evil. Finally I pushed it all back and opened my eyes and found myself alone. Similar experiences happened for years. Each was terrifying, but almost became commonplace. I discovered that it was sleep paralysis, and someone said the best way to deal with it was to give in to it, and not to fight it. One day, I was taking a nap on my bed in the basement. My brother was a couple rooms down in our entertainment room. I felt that familiar visceral buzzing. My eyes opened, but I couldn't move. I decided to let go this time and I gave in to it. As soon as I had done that, my body started to sit up. I saw my arm rising, and one thought dominated my mind: I had to kill my brother. I was halfway up, panic set in, and I pushed back as hard as I could, and eventually woke up panting and terrified. I never gave in to it again. It's lessened over the past few years, but every year or so it comes back. I was staying the night at a friend's house when I was about 13. We were watching The Shining with her older sister and another friend when I saw a black figure in my peripheral vision. I turned my head all the way to the right and watched this solid black figure in the shape of a man wearing a cowboy hat walk from one side of the house to the other. I didn't say anything to my friend when it happened. I thought maybe my mind was just playing tricks on me because the movie was scary. After the movie, my friend's sister and the others all left the house to stay elsewhere. My friend's parents were out of town. In the middle of the night, I woke up to someone stomping up the stairs toward the room we were sleeping in. We thought maybe her sister had just come home and ran upstairs to bed. We went to check and found no one. We heard the stomping a few more times, and then a really loud bang on the wall between our bedroom and the outside of the house, on the second floor. My friend looks me straight in the eyes and says, "Did you see the man earlier?" I swear no one else was home and my friend was just as terrified as I was. We hid under the blankets and didn't come out until we could see sunlight. This isn't my only encounter with unexplained or paranormal things happening. My dad's house when I was a kid was scary to say the least, haunted if you believe in that kind of thing. We used to see a man in a military uniform in the long hallway leading towards my brother's room. The security alarms would go off for no reason, like someone was opening and closing a door over and over again. One time we had a decorative plate fly off a shelf and hit a mirror clear across the room. When my mom was a kid, she was waiting with her younger sister at the bus stop when she felt a strong craving for a candy bar. She is normally extremely cautious and responsible, but this one time she felt such a strong urge for candy that she decided to run to the nearest convenience store with her sister and get some. By the time they got back to the stop, a driver had lost control of the bus and ran over a bunch of people there. Back when I just started working in a new town, my best friend was studying at university, one town over. We met once a week in the cinema in her town. One night after the film was over, we said our goodbyes, and I hurried to my car to drive home. When I rolled off the parking lot, I was hit by the thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to take the country road home instead of the highway? I shook my head, wondering where that thought came from, because taking that way would at least double the time I needed to go home, and I had to go to work early next morning. So, I headed towards the highway anyway. I had never been scared of driving before or after that night, but I was almost shaking with fright when I rolled onto the highway. The road was quite empty, but eventually I closed up to a truck. On any normal day I'd just overtake it, but I couldn't bring myself to do so. Somehow that truck meant safety to me. Thoughts crossed my mind about what the last thoughts of people getting hit by wrong-way drivers are. Again, no idea where they came from. Right before I reached my exit, a wrong-way driver passed us by. As of today, I have not found a logical reason for my fear that night. I didn't listen to the radio, but I had a CD playing. There wasn't music or radio in the cinema as well, and it was well before the time of smartphones. Something or someone warned me. My mom bought a CD of songs from the 40s and put it on for me to share some of the music her parents loved. She started dancing around and tearing up when one song came on, and she told me it was her father's favorite. The next time we listened to the album, we couldn't find the song. It wasn't listed on the back of the case, because it wasn't on the CD at all. A few years ago, the day before my birthday, I had a really weird dream. I was in my mother's kitchen with my mother, only there were no walls, just a dark expanse all around. I walked up to her and asked, "So, how did he die?" She replied, "He woke up dead." I woke up at that point, around 4:30 a.m. according to my phone, and wrote this down in my dream journal beside my bed, which I was keeping at the time in an attempt to spur lucid dreaming. A few hours later, maybe after 8, my brother called me, crying, to say that our uncle was dead. Apparently, my aunt woke up around 6, to wake him up for work as usual, only to find him blue-faced and cold in the bed next to her, choked on his vomit. This was a completely unexpected death. He had no medical conditions that would have worried my aunt, his sisters, or his mother, never mind the rest of the family. Even the autopsy came back inconclusive. They couldn't find any reason, medical, neurological, or chemical, as to why he suddenly puked in his sleep and didn't wake up from it, though my aunt did say that the coroners estimated he'd been dead 1 to 2 hours by the time she got up, right around the time I woke up from my dream. My mother was an extremely active and healthy woman. One night I had a dream that we were in the hospital with all these doctors, and she was diagnosed with a cancer in the throat. I remember the sound was muffled in my dream, but they kept pointing to my mother's throat. The dream was too vivid, and when I woke up, I immediately messaged my mother to go to the doctor. She brushed me off and thought it was funny. About 8 months later, she went to the doctor for a cold that wouldn't go away and was diagnosed with an aggressive form of thyroid cancer and unfortunately passed away within a month. I still sometimes look at that message and wish I was more persistent. I had a dream when I was 3 years old about being chased through an old house by a man with a chainsaw. The aged green walls and wooden floors are still ingrained in my memory. My only escape was hopping from the second floor down to the first, where I was teleported back in bed with my parents. The particularly spooky part didn't come until years later. My family went on vacation for spring break to some town along the coast. We stayed in a home that was part of an older settlement in Washington state. Upon entering the house, I was freaking out. It was the exact home I had dreamed of years ago, right down to the walls and the staircase. I felt exceedingly uncomfortable for our entire stay. I read in a book a long while later that, unbeknownst to my parents, the neighborhood we were staying in is notably haunted due to some murders that took place there in the 1800s. When I was like 3 or 4, my grandmother passed away, and soon after, all my extended family flew in town to have the funeral. A week after the funeral, some relatives were still in town, including my uncle and his family. My grandmother wanted us to sell the house after she passed, so my family did exactly that. It was hectic because we were trying to pack everything up. Meanwhile, everyone still had to go to work and school. On one of the days that we had to pack up the house, my parents both had work, my older cousins had school, and my uncles and aunts had jobs. However, one of my uncles was available to watch me for a couple hours, so he did. According to him, I asked him to go to the bathroom while he was watching TV. The closest bathroom was in my grandparents' old room, so I went there. When I came back, I asked my uncle who was the nice lady on the bed. He kind of played along with it because he might have thought it was an imaginary friend or something. He asked me questions about her to entertain me. I described her as dark-haired, kind of white, and wearing a blue nightgown. When I said that, my uncle freaked out because my grandmother always wore a light blue nightgown to sleep. After that, my uncle and I left the house and waited outside for my parents to come back home. I went to a graveyard at about midnight with a group of friends to visit an old friend who died in a car accident. While we were standing around his grave, telling good stories about him, I hear a faint voice of an elderly woman. One of my friends says out loud, "Oh, what the hell?" I stand up and look towards the source. I saw a very old woman, literally dressed in a white tattered nightgown about 100 feet away. She started talking to us. "Sir, get over here now, I need help." We stood still, no one said a thing. The part that weirded me out was that she used the singular word sir, when clearly there was 5 of us. She started walking closer and started speaking again, but even louder. "Boys, I need your help now." Note the plurality. Then, she literally started running toward us, screaming nonsense. We were all scared out of our minds, so we ran back to the car, with this old woman close behind. We reached the car, which was a 2-door, and everyone got in before me, including the driver, so the driver's seat was blocking my entrance to the back seat. I yelled as I approached the car, and he got out and let me in. Doors slammed, and we flew down the small graveyard roads to the opposite side, where the exit was. This is where shit got weird. We get to the other side of the graveyard in like 10 seconds. We're speeding toward the exit, and we approach a curved road that was well lit, and the old lady ran onto the road. There is no way she ran over there that fast. I see her trying to chase us down, and finally she lets out the most terrifying scream I've ever heard. Sounded like she was being murdered slowly and painfully. We fled the scene just seconds after, and never returned. 4 other friends of mine can testify as witnesses to that night. It is by far the most terrifying experience in my life.